everyone, welcome to Barefoot with Spirit podcast show. I'm your host, Leanne, the Barefoot Medium, and I'm incredibly excited to connect with you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an international medium, transformational coach, and an intuitive criminal investigator who is blessed to be able to connect people with their loved ones who've passed over and to bring through guidance and insight to help people transform and shift and change their lives, whether it's around health and wellness, career, finances, love, relationships, all of those things. Before we get started on today's episode, I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I stand and on which my guest stands, pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and First Nations people who are tuning in from all around the world. Kick off your shoes, take some deep breaths into your heart space, and imagine yourself stepping into this container for a deep and intimate, connected conversation with my guest, Dr. Stephen G. Post, on the giving and glowing. Now, Dr. Post is a public speaker, social philosopher, and scholar in health and social sciences, philosophy, and global spirituality, as well as an opinion leader, mentor, and educator. He's the president and co-founder of the Institute for Research on Pure Love, Unlimited Love, and currently serves as director of the Center for Medical Humanities, Compassionate Care and Bioethics at the Stony Brook University Renaissance School of Medicine. He has spent more than 40 years researching cultural transformation, which integrates rigorous science with spiritual wisdom and compassionate action, and is the author of Pure Unlimited Love, Science and the 7 Paths to Inner Peace, where he shares data, real-world examples, everyday tips, and suggested meditations to support people to generate inner peace and foster connection with others. Welcome, Stephen.
You're most welcome. I'm so grateful to be with you, and thanks for the invitation.
My pleasure. Now, I'm really excited to talk to you about how you came to be doing this type of work and combining both the science and the spiritual wisdom together.
Well, it's been a journey. That would be the metaphor. It's not necessarily anything that one plans from the get-go, but I've been fortunate enough to encounter some wonderful, wonderful mentors over the years, and they've all encouraged this interface of spirituality, pure unlimited love, and science. And that's included Sir John Templeton, but many, many others over the years. And I'm just very fortunate to be doing what I'm doing and supporting my family reasonably well.
That's always a good thing, isn't it?
It helps.
It does. And so I love how you talk about it's been a journey, and you know, life is that journey. And I know that you know, you've got some of those principles in your book that you share with people around finding inner peace and connectedness in relationships. So talk to me about what inspired your Pure Unlimited Love book and your work in that space.
Well, I've noticed the polarization of recent years, and I think it's overbearing and overwhelming. I think we can disagree without animosity. We can disagree without hatred or rumination, without destroying relationships and families. And I know that United States culture right now is so egregiously polarized that it's hard to ask people even to listen attentively and respectfully to one another. So in my courses in the medical school, but elsewhere, I always ask people to learn to debate And the first step there is to take on a position with which you, in your heart and soul, disagree.
Mm.
And you want to present it as fairly and accurately as you are able. You want to then proceed to take on its detractors, and you don't necessarily want to be debating with somebody who uh, you you always disagree with, but ideally you will have someone else who takes the opposite position, not because they feel it or even believe it, but because that's the position that they need to take in order for there to be a legitimate debate. So I believe that we've forgotten how to discuss respectfully, how to debate. We've forgotten how to laugh.
Yeah.
I like mirth. I'm a big fan of mirth, not derogatory or derisive mirth, but uplifting mirth. And
Yeah.
I think we need to learn how to laugh again.
Yeah. And there's so much in there that I want to unpack a little bit with you. And I like how you talk about respectfully debate and discuss. And I think there's, in those conversations and communications within our relationships, whether that's in the in our career or professional space, or whether that's in our relationship sector.
Yeah.
How do we engage in respectful communication or debate when we disagree or when we have a different position?
Well, we have to be able to put our own ideas on the shelf, at least briefly, and really honestly bring up ideas that we may not be entirely comfortable with, but that deserve our attention. So, in the final analysis, it's about love.
Mm.
So, when I was growing up, my mother was very much a Democrat and a big fan of JFK and very Irish, Molly McGee. That's a pretty Irish name. And then my father was very British. His mother was from Sheffield, and he was much in favor of Richard Nixon. So they would debate this at the table. They didn't throw plates. They didn't throw food. They didn't scream bloody murder. They tried to keep things civil and managed quite well. So as a child, I was able to listen in on this and learn a lot and not be fearful of it.
Mm.
Um, and love ultimately is the answer. So I can give you my definition of love if you'd like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Not so much the love of designer jeans or chocolate, although those things are fine, especially dark chocolate is very good. Um, it's healthy actually.
Yeah.
Uh, but as I define it, when the well-being and the security of another is as real to you as your own, and sometimes even more so, you love that person. Now, that love takes many, many different expressions, which we practice in, especially in leadership, but in any kind of relationship.
Mm.
And I have a wheel of love, which includes compassion, listening, helping, and many other such things that we'll talk about.
Mm.
But it's not so much the abstract idea of unlimited love that I'm interested in promulgating, but really the expressions of love as needed
Mm.
in different human situations that we can anticipate over the course of the day. And pure unlimited love, what is that? That's a
Yeah.
more metaphysical thing. It's not just ethical, it's really metaphysical.
Mm.
So, as the chairman of the family medicine department here said when I asked him a few months ago, Jeff, what is pure unlimited love to you? And he said one of the most astute things I've heard in a long, long time. He paused, he breathed deep, he's meditational, and he said, pure unlimited love is the first thing that you see when you close your eyes for the last time,
Mm.
comma, hopefully.
Mm,
So, we've written a lot of things about remembered experiences of death, one of which won an award from the New York Academy of Sciences 2 years ago as the most widely cited piece in their publication. We
mm,
brought a new seriousness to it using the programs at Langone NYU Hospital. The
mm,
resuscitation department has been very instrumental. And so I feel as though we've been um, lucky and blessed, but certainly, there is that sense in which pure unlimited love uh, conjures up the highest possible realities. So I talked about Sir John Templeton,
yeah.
the great philanthropist. Sir John and I were buddies for a long time. He died in the summer of 2008. A week before he died in Lyford Key down in Nassau in the Bahamas. His son, Jack, who was a pediatric trauma surgeon,
Mhm,
called me on my flip phone. That's what we had at those times. And he said, Stephen, Dad is dying. And I said, Jack, I'm so sad. Is there anything I can do? And Jack surprised me. He said, Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. And I said, What is that? And he says, Well, Dad has something for you to do.
mm,
He's dying and he will not be able to write his final book. And he'd like you to write it for him or on his
wow.
behalf, which is a hard thing to fathom,
Wow.
actually. But I thought about it for a minute and I said, if he entrusts me to do this, I may as well do it because I'm so loyal to people and especially to
Mm,
Sir John. So I said, Jack, did he give you a title? It's a thoughtful question. And Jack said, Yes. Ultimate reality is unlimited love.
mm,
And I thought about it and I said, Jack, that's quite a responsibility. Could you go back to your father and ask him if we could put a question mark at the end of that?
yeah.
So Jack came back a minute or two later and he said, Yeah, Dad says, is ultimate reality unlimited love? Question mark. And I felt a great relief
Mm,
because I knew I could talk from plausibility, not necessarily hard fact.
yeah.
And the Templeton Foundation published that book, and it's really a tribute to Sir John and how he thought. And so I'm happy about that. And this
Yeah.
book, Pure Unlimited Love, this is my with the forward by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I might add.
Wow.
That's really a continuation of my loyalty to Sir John.
Mm, mm. In my work as a medium, I deal with family members who are in that grief and loss process. So part of my work is holding space for grief and loss, and in our human experience, we feel that loss of our loved one who's passed over. And some of the things that you talked about there was in those last moments of when we're here as a soul and closing our eyes, and what we take with us is love,
Yes.
and what we leave behind is love. So in my connecting people with their passed over loved ones, it's all about reconnecting them with love that they don't feel like they have anywhere to put, because
Yes.
their loved one's not physically here anymore. So I love how you talk about that, and the survival of consciousness, and whether that is factual or not, or whatever. We Love is a feeling, that an energy that we can take with us.
Yeah, so you mentioned consciousness. A few
Mm.
years ago, actually in 2015, that's 10 years ago, time flies.
Yes.
I was in Bangalore, India, at the Indian Institute for Advanced Studies. And I've written a lot of things on deeply forgetful people,
Mm.
people with dementia. I don't like the word dementia because it invites negative metaphors, gone, husk, shell, dead, and so forth.
Yeah.
And actually, people can be deeply forgetful and still have wonderful moments of lucidity.
Mm.
They can also be very creative. They can connect with their pasts, even if their short-term memory is very much impaired. So I like to notice the continuing self-identity
Mm.
of deeply forgetful people. And that is my test case for love. I
Yeah.
don't think about love tested by enemies because I really don't have any enemies.
Yeah.
I have I have some adversaries here and there.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference because your adversaries are there to bring out your best.
Yeah.
I believe that. So at any rate, I've been very, very, very blessed, and I think that love is the ultimate reality.
Mm.
I believe that love is the only thing that we are remembered for, that
Yeah.
we take with us,
Yeah.
not our CVs, our resumes. You'll be shocked. I have a 50-page CV,
Yeah.
and I don't know what to do with it. It's an academic CV, and it
Yeah.
just, and I don't add anything to it, but obviously there was a time when I had to keep it up to snuff, and
Mm.
that's kind of the name of the game, but it has no meaning to me. I'm happy to have written things always out of the spirit of love. So in this book,
Mm.
creativity is one of the expressions of love.
Yeah.
And whenever I've written anything, I've always done it for the good of some identifiable, needful constituency.
Yeah.
I've written about deeply forgetful people. I've written about many other groups. It's one of the reasons I work in medical schools and have for the last 40 years, because here you're really engaged
Mm.
with needy individuals.
Yeah.
And I like teaching medical students compassionate care
Yeah.
because I know that compassion heals. And
Yeah.
that's not just an inner emotional state.
Mm.
As His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, it's an activity.
Yeah.
So compassion is this affective empathy in the context of suffering with at least the intention
Yeah.
of alleviating that suffering if you are able to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm happy that we have a program in that area, and we're actually very highly rated across the United States,
Mm.
number 7 in these
Yeah.
humanistic programs
Wow.
because we emphasize compassionate care.
Yeah. I'm really present to, and I was going to mention your work around the deeply forgetful people, and I love how you term it that. My father has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's
Oh,
and is in that process at the moment, and has had some medical issues to deal with in amongst
mhm.
that. And so your mentioning of compassionate care and kindness even is part of what you talk about with love, and that laughter and joy and that remembering, I think, is really important. And I think that we forget that sometimes. Even us healthy beings, we
Yes,
can
yes,
forget things. And what a beautiful reminder my dad gives me every day, to embrace compassion and empathy and kindness and
yes.
creativity of how do we creatively navigate this scenario.
Yeah, yeah. And many times, Leanne, there's more meaning in the activities of deeply forgetful people than we assume.
Yeah.
So, for example, I knew a fellow named Jim who came into the Elder Healthcare Center every couple of days in Cleveland, and this was for an art therapy program. So
Mm.
he would take his black crayon and he would sketch very garbled lines on the easel. And every time he came in, though, he did paint the same 2 parallel lines down the
Mm.
middle of his image. And I would ask him, Jim, what is that? And he could never speak.
Mm.
He couldn't communicate. But then I was open to surprises. So I asked him, Jim, one morning, what is that? And he said, that's the map for my daughter to get to my house.
Oh, wow.
And those things really do happen. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that, we need to figure out how to communicate with and love deeply forgetful people. They are my test case.
Yeah.
And even how to communicate with them. Don't ask them, what would you like for breakfast? Because they'll draw a blank and they'll be anxious. But
Yeah.
if you say, would you like Cheerios or would you like eggs? Then you're cueing them with your language
Yeah.
and they will be able to respond oftentimes very well. So how we speak with them matters.
Exactly. And I think that's really important when you talk about that presence and communication and connectedness with people, and when we're, my mum's navigating how to communicate with dad and
Yes.
forget sometimes and ask him those questions, and I'm like, maybe we need to not give some options here. Maybe it's like this or this.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
that sense of, fun and playfulness and laughter, and also bringing that curiosity to the space, because they do remember things, and
They
it's
do.
about allowing them to bring that to the table as well in their
Yeah.
communication.
And their symbolic reasoning never goes. I mean,
No.
their linear rationality, like means ends, how to get from point A to point B, that may suffer a setback. And they may forget how to go shopping because they can't remember what they want to buy.
Yeah.
But they're still there, and that can be prompted. So if they go to, for example, a worship service of whatever kind, and they're hearing hymns that they identify with from childhood, or prayers that they identify with, or um, seeing stained glass windows in all of their awesome beauty,
Mm.
then they will come back into themselves.
Yeah.
And it's frequently reported that after these experiences, they may be able to speak somewhat more coherently for 4 or 5 minutes. And that's what you want, because for caregivers, it means that, hey, grandma's still there.
Yeah.
She may be opaque. I have a great friend. He's an African American minister of high distinction. And about 2 years ago, I called him on my cell phone because I knew his sister was struggling with dementia. And I called him and I said, Pastor, do you think she's still there? And he said very, very deeply, he said,
Mm.
I could never say that she's gone.
Mm.
She has a soul.
Yeah.
And for all I know, she's a few feet ahead of us. And
Yeah.
she's gone down to the train station
Yeah.
and she's got one foot on that blessed train bound for glory. Amen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how we need to think about people. Not
Yeah.
as demented, as gone, as empty, as useless. We need to recognize that they're still part of the human family and the
Yeah.
divine human family. I
Yeah.
was in Ohio, and I went to a special hospital for the geriatric individuals in the state with forms of dementia. And there
Mm.
was one unit where they had people with Down syndrome who were
Mm.
in their 50s, and they typically then have a dual diagnosis. They also have Alzheimer's disease, and their
Mm.
behavior becomes very ungovernable.
Right.
So,
Right.
so my friend Dr. Foley and I observed this, and we also thought it miraculous when a couple of nurses' aides came into the unit, and these individuals immediately quieted down. It was unbelievably. It was a miracle of love. They just somehow picked up the spiritual presence of these individuals, and we were so impressed. We took a couple of these aides out to a pizza restaurant for lunch,
Yeah.
and we asked them, "So, how is it that you care for these individuals every day with such love and such diligence
Mm.
and such thoroughness?" And they said namaste,
Yeah.
which just means we honor the divine in you as you honor the divine in us.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing that can ever remove that presence of the one mind of consciousness
Yeah.
from our minds and from our hearts.
Yeah.
So I'm a believer in those things. And I've never been able to bring myself to say that grandma's not there.
Yeah. And I love that. Um, what we see in ourselves also exists in someone else, and what someone else sees in us exists the same. So I love
Yeah.
how you talk about that. Um, talk to me about, you talk about glow. Talk to me
Yeah.
about what glow is.
Well, it's radiance. I think you've got some of it. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
but, I've been studying and writing books about the benefits of giving, of kind giving,
Yeah.
and how that's very good for us. Even though it's not transactional, there are still a lot of internal benefits. And so um, we even did a study with United Healthcare, a big managed care system in the US, of about 5,000 adults.
Yeah.
And this was in the beginning of 2010. And we asked them, did you volunteer in 2009?
Mm.
Roughly 40% of them did. And then we had questions in what you might call positive psychology that
Yeah.
we added. So, uh, did um, did this lower your stress levels?
Mm.
73% said yes. Did this make you have a higher sense of well-being? 89% said yes. I'm just looking at the book here.
That's okay.
How about purpose of life?
Mm.
92% said that was enriched. Did it help you feel physically healthier? 68% said yes.
Mm.
Did it improve your emotional health? 77% said yes. Did it help with recovery from loss and disappointment? And by
Mm.
the way, life is difficult.
Yeah.
I preface everything with that remark.
Yeah.
Um, so 78% said yes, it helps with loss and disappointment. So some of my colleagues did a wonderful study of widows and widowers. That's in the
Mm.
in the book, who had been happily married for considerable years, and now they're going through grief and bereavement.
Mm.
So uh, they measured their internal well-being, their state of happiness, and various other assets. And the individuals who were doing more helping and volunteering, formally or informally, were doing a lot better. They were getting through grief and bereavement
Mm.
more quickly and in a more lasting or enduring fashion.
Yeah.
And so I got a call from the New York Society of Widows and Widowers. There is such a thing. And
Okay.
they said, would you come in and give a talk at our annual meeting? So I went into New York. I was somewhere on Fifth Avenue at a hotel in a big ballroom. And I gave a pretty good talk about positive psychology and helping others. And there was
Yeah.
a guy in the back afterwards. It was Q&A. And he was just frantically waving his hands. And I said, yes, sir. And he said, I don't care what you say, buddy. I don't do nothing for nothing.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing about culture. If you
Yeah.
really get into some of this transactional stuff, if that's all you have in your mind,
Mm.
then you will think in those terms. And the idea that you're not getting a payback
Mm.
for any kind of generous activity is unacceptable to you. And that's why I hope that pure unlimited love has some transformative effect, at least in some people's lives.
Mm.
Maybe in the culture as a whole, you never know. Maybe in 20 years, people will be saying, oh, I pure unlimited love you.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
would
that's
be
awesome.
okay.
Yeah.
And then, and so there's a lot of that in my history. I wrote a book called Why Good Things Happen to Good People, How to Live a Longer, Healthier, Happier Life
Yeah.
through the simple act of giving. And now, those researchings that I did way back in 2000 and before, they've now become very well accepted.
Mm.
A lot of people are making their bread and butter by variations on the theme.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad to have contributed early on, and thank heavens for Sir John because he always told me it's good to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
And the second chapter is May You Heal with Kindness, and that's for anybody, not
yes.
just doctors and nurses. And kindness, everybody can decide that they want to interact with other people with kindness, with a
Mm.
warm heart. And that in itself makes you a healer.
Yeah. And I love how you talk about that because I think, remembering that we get a choice to be kind and a choice to embrace compassion and a choice with giving from that beautiful space of love and generosity and,
Yes, every
and
day.
all of that.
Absolutely, Leanne. Every day it's a choice, but you have to cultivate it.
Yeah.
So as you know from reading the book, I get up in the morning pretty early, like maybe 5:30 at the latest.
Yeah.
And I like the early morning hours because the old Jewish rabbis
Hmm.
from centuries and centuries ago always said the early morning was a good time to be mindful and to meditate
Yeah.
because when you get up in the morning, you really tell me if this resonates. You never really know quite where you are. I could be in Cleveland, I could be in Brisbane.
Yeah.
You're not quite sure what time it is,
Yeah.
and you have to orient yourself. And also, none of the negativity that typically accumulates during the day has gotten to you yet.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be mindful and meditate and pray, that early morning time is the best.
Mm.
And so I do meditation, but then I reflect, second half of it, I reflect on the people I know I'm going to meet over the course of the day.
Mm.
Some of them may need compassion because they're suffering for some reason that I'm aware of. Some of them may need carefrontation. Uh,
Oh, I like that.
well,
I like that term.
that's in the circle of love, but it's not my term. I I
Okay.
was I was I was bequeathed that term by a psychiatrist friend named M. Scott Peck, who
Okay.
wrote The Road Less Traveled.
Okay.
And I was at Case Medical School for 20 years. He was a graduate long before I got there,
Yep.
and we communicated quite a bit. He knew I was interested in love, and he'd been writing great books about love. So one day he wrote me a letter and he said, you need something that will help you approach love when it needs to be
Mm.
a little bit difficult.
Yeah.
Because he was a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
and so he said, we don't want tough love. We don't
Mm.
want confrontational love.
Mm.
Carefrontation is what we want. And
Yeah.
that's in The Road Less Traveled. So I borrow that and
Yeah.
acknowledge from my
Yeah.
old friend, now deceased,
Yeah.
M. Scott or Scotty Peck.
Yeah.
And being carefrontational is an art form. I mean, you have to really know how to uh, elicit change from people.
Mm.
You have to try to keep them on track with what you know is their inner calling
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
And they seem to be losing that, going off track from time to time.
Yeah.
So you want to do your best to help them right the ship. And that often
Yeah.
is an art form, takes a
Yeah.
lot of practice.
Yeah. It
So I like
does.
carefrontation. And
Yeah.
with your kids, as they grow older and they're always going to be somewhat disappointing.
Mm.
You have to do carefrontation with yourself
Yeah.
because they're not quite turning out to do the things that you had hoped for.
Yeah.
So parents have to be self-carefrontational. There you go.
Yeah. I had a client earlier this morning who is navigating some relationship challenges with her oldest daughter, who had to navigate as a child some challenges with mum and dad's relationship.
Yes.
And she's in that space of acknowledging that her eldest daughter saw and heard and experienced a lot more confrontation and struggle and all of those things than her younger children have. And so she's received a different version of mum than what her younger children have. And so navigating that requires forgiveness and kindness and compassion and coming back to self and acknowledging that. So I love how you talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. I have an older daughter who has been through some of that. You know, there's a book called Scream-Free Parenting that was a bestseller a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
And the guy who wrote it did a big national survey, and he asked parents, did they scream at their kids? Which is not very productive. There's this chapter in the book,
Yeah.
How to Raise Kind Children.
Yeah.
Turns out that 98% of parents had totally lost it with their kids, just screamed bloody murder, just tore the heck out of them. And that is pushing all the wrong buttons, because we know from developmental science now that actually toddlers have a lot of inborn compassion and empathy, and it's quite prolific, but you have to mold it and cultivate it.
Yeah.
And if you're screaming all the time and fighting all the time, it turns everything off, not for life necessarily, because we have studies that show that those individuals, even though they're at a deficit in terms of kindness and being identified as kind and loving by their peers in college, for example, but they can overcome this by the right spiritual community, the right spiritual practices, marrying the right person.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yes.
you know, and so it's not easy, but it's also the case that from the research we see, that those people who experience very difficult emotional situations as young kids, they're typically at a disadvantage even in midlife
Yeah.
with regard to mental illnesses
Yeah.
and physical illnesses, including diabetes.
Yeah.
And if you look at their lives on average, this is in the book on, on May You Heal with Kindness, they don't live quite as long on average.
No.
So this is so if I was to give one practical recommendation to anybody on this earth, when you become a parent, don't just think about the success of your kids, but put kindness before success.
Yeah. Yeah. And I often in bringing children together with passed over parents, I often hear the parents bring through that, they're proud of them, not for what they achieved, but for who they are.
Yeah.
And it's those beautiful personal qualities of love and kindness and compassion and empathy and all of those things that we're remembered for. And so I love that you bring that back. And I want to mention that word inner peace, which is really what you're talking about, is coming back to that sense of inner peace within you, which exists despite all the challenges and the hardness and the struggle and all of that. And some of the people that I work with in have and my husband's experienced that in his family, unfortunately, with being survivors of homicide, is dealing with that grief, loss, and trauma as a result of that. And how do you hold that beautiful, compassionate, kind space for them to navigate back to that sense of inner peace and who they are after such a traumatic event?
Absolutely. And the title, the subtitle of this book is Science and the seven paths to inner peace, not
Yeah.
happiness.
Mm.
I am so fed up with the books on happiness.
Yeah.
Even though I gave a talk on happiness in 2007 at the Sydney Harbor event,
Yeah.
and loved it. But I got to tell you that happiness, it's almost as bad as love. What does love mean?
Yeah.
Well, I've defined, that's why I define it with some care, but
Yeah.
it's not love of chocolate or designer jeans. I mean, it's this deeper, more profound love. But what is profound and deep happiness? It's inner
Yeah.
peace. Go
Yeah.
for inner peace, and the right kind of happiness will follow.
Yeah.
Happiness, some people write these books uh, about happiness. One fellow at Harvard, whose name will not be mentioned, has a totally hedonistic view of happiness.
Mm.
So he says, having children is not going to make you happy because you can't go out to the movies. You can't
Mm.
just run out to the restaurant. You can't just spend all your money in one place. You've got a budget and you've got to change diapers and all of that stuff. You probably got to pay for college. And so that hedonically is a loss.
Yeah.
But if you expand your idea of happiness, like Marty Seligman does, my good friend,
Mm.
there is a hedonic element. You want to have a little bit of food on the plate
Yeah.
and a decent roof over your head.
Yeah.
But and that's a serious issue right now, especially in America, I'm
Yeah.
afraid. Um, but you also want to have flow.
Mm.
Marty Seligman puts flow in there, that you want to be able to get immersed in
Mm.
creative moments, whether it's in music, art,
Yeah.
sports, reading, whatever it might be. So you just feel
Mm.
that inner peace and you
Mm.
get a sense of being beyond time and place.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how he defines flow in his great book. I actually knew him when I was at the University of Chicago and worked with him a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
And then finally, there's a whole third level, which means, okay, what about looking back over your lifetime? That's called, don't quote this, eudaimonism, the
Yeah.
sense of happiness that you've lived your life reasonably well. And
Mm.
you might feel that when you've had kids, and even if you're fortunate, grandkids, whatever. Not
Mm.
everyone is that fortunate, but so it's happiness is very complicated,
Mm.
and it's not just uh, ice cream sandwiches.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's why inner peace is much more attractive to me.
Yeah.
I think happiness has been overworked.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the insights or wisdom that I've received in the last month or two in particular is around life flows in when we've got harmony in our world, whether that's in our personal lives, in our work, or within our health and well-being. And so when we're feeling that inner peace or harmony, life flows a lot easier and a lot smoother, and we can uh, confront or face challenges or problems or situations or experiences with more compassion and kindness.
And listen, so even though I do practice this more altruistic form of meditation every morning, because His Holiness the Dalai Lama wrote the foreword to Pure Unlimited Love, and he and I are good friends, and he says that you don't want to think of compassion as a satisfying inward emotional state. It
Mm.
involves activity,
Yeah.
efforts to relieve the suffering of others. And I think that's true. And
Yeah.
every once in a while during the course of the day, I kind of lose my bearings. I need
Yeah.
some confrontation. So I have this little gizmo here, which your viewers will want to see.
Oh, I
It's
like that.
an hourglass and it says, in just a minute. So you turn this over
Uh-huh.
and you meditate as the sand goes through the hourglass. You
Yeah.
breathe and you get back to your inner peace.
Yeah.
So that's my gimmick.
Yeah. I have a gimmick as well, and mine's a duck.
Okay, what do you do with that?
So that's the happy duck. I call it the happy duck. That's the reminder to come back to my center and to come back
Good,
to kindness and compassion and my purpose and my path and freedom.
good for you. That's nice to have.
Yeah. So I
I
love
like that
that.
duck. Looks like a nice duck.
So, Stephen, what's one last tip that you would give people who are watching or listening about unlimited love?
Well, there are difficult moments in life,
Mm,
and you do not want to be sucked down into that negative vortex of bitterness and hostility and blame.
mm,
So you always have to find ways actively to expand the canvas,
yeah.
like a Jackson Pollock painting that began with a gob of yucky paint. But by
Mm,
the time he covered it up with those beautiful, almost psychedelic lines,
mm,
it gets into the Museum of Modern Art, deservedly so.
yeah.
So you always want to expand the canvas. That would be my words for your listeners.
Yeah.
Always expand the canvas. And that means, you know, doing things for other people. But it also
Mm,
means, I mean, in the book, uh, cherish the gift of nature. Go out into nature.
yeah.
Um, understand, be one with the one mind.
Mm,
Uh, understand and honor the spirit of freedom.
mm,
So you have to do these things and find ways to make them real in
yeah.
your life as activities.
Yeah.
Um, and that would be it. Also, I'm going to quote Eleanor Roosevelt now, one of my old favorites. The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't ever give up on your beautiful dreams.
Yeah. 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 I often say to my clients that you've been given your dreams for a reason because you're the one unique soul that can bring them to to the to the physical world, to humanity, and
Yes.
find your purpose and your path with that. So
Yes.
thank you.
It's a pleasure. Nice to meet you.
You too. Now, where can people find a copy of your book if they're interested?
Well, Pure Unlimited Love can be found on any website. I won't give names, but any regular website where people order books.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it will be rewarding. I think if you
Yeah.
pick up a copy, you'll find some interesting perspectives.
Yeah.
It's very much at the interface of spirituality and some ethics and some science.
Yeah.
And I
I
think it
love
does a
that.
decent job of that.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and bringing that to listeners and viewers of the show.
Oh,
I appreciate.
my
Oh, your
website
website.
is unlimitedloveinstitute.org.
Okay, perfect. I will
Unlimited
also
Love
pop that
Institute.
in the comments as well for people
Great. All right.
to check that out.
Okay, great.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for joining me. And for those of you who are interested in more of my work, check out my website, thebarefootmedium.com.au. And until next time, embrace unlimited love, give and glow through life, and use compassion and kindness wherever you go. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next time on Barefoot with Spirit podcast show.